Welcome to the Turnbuckle Sports Network podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Turnbuckle Sports Network Fantasy Baseball Edition podcast. Actually, we're calling it something a little bit different now. With our guest interviews, this is going to be for now called Turnbuckle Talk. And Turnbuckle Talk, today, we have the honor of having such a great and fascinating guest. Today, we have with us, alongside my co-host as always, the Blue Chipper, the Day Tripper, the Lee May Ripper, the king of fantasy baseball himself, Steve Mutsu.
How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. And today we have with us an awesome guest, a guest who has literally captivated all of us on ImagineSports.com, Diamond Mine Online. We have the pleasure of having Tyler Ensor on Turnbuckle Talk today. Tyler, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, and we have a lot to talk about today. First of all, I'd like to bring up, obviously, that Tyler is the Diamond Mine Online August 2021 featured team owner of the month, and for great reason. So congratulations on that, Tyler. You are the talk of the advice boards and everywhere right now. Everyone is fascinated with you and your story. We're going to get into all that right now. So let me ask you this, man. How does it feel to start playing this game on this site with us since May, and it's August, and you're the player of the month? How does this happen? Tell me about this.
It's pretty great. I've been playing a lot, and I think people kind of noticed me because I've been harassing everybody on the advice board with questions for the past 4 months, so that probably helped a bit. I've looked for a long time for a website like this, and I've really been enjoying it.
Well, what do you like most about it? I take it you've probably tried a couple. Tell us about that and what landed you here, and tell us what you really like about it.
Oh man, there's a lot of stuff that I like about it. I feel like I learn about players that I never knew about. That's kind of cool. A lot of early 20th century players. I think I mentioned in the newsletter about Ross Youngs and Jack Crooks. And there's the play-by-play is really cool. I love being able to actually see how the game plays out. It's just a really fun game. I think I don't know. It's hard. I feel like I like everything about it.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Steve played in Game 7 of the World Series in his league yesterday, and we recorded a video. It's our latest video here on the Turnbuckle Sports Network podcast on our YouTube channel. Please check us out. Hit the subscribe button. We watched his Game 7 live yesterday, and I was enjoying myself quite a lot because Steve was getting creamed 7-0 until about the 6th inning. He scored a couple runs. It was 7-3. Of course, in the 9th inning, Steve comes back and ties the game at 7. We're thinking, oh boy, here we go. 15 innings later.
No, not 15 innings later. In the 15th inning.
In the 15th inning. Yes, sorry about that. Steve's bullpen comes up huge, puts up a million zeros on the board, and he walks off and wins his 3rd consecutive World Series, 8-7.
3rd consecutive in a 24-man progression league. That's pretty hard to do, really.
That is very hard to do. It's quite impressive, and we have a lot of fun, just like you were saying. That's why I brought that up, how fun it is to watch your games, watch the play-by-play, and that. And, me and Steve obviously play in leagues together, and whenever we play each other, we'll call each other, or maybe we'll jump on something like this. and smack talk each other and watch it live. It's fun. It's one of the really cool features of the game. Tyler,
it would have been really frustrating to be your opponent in that game.
Yeah.
It was the greatest game. Yeah, everyone should watch that video. I watched it. It was like really fun. Everybody should watch that video. That was a good video.
Steve, did you talk to your opponent about that game? 9 bottles of beer.
Oh, he messaged me. He was like, "Yeah, I thought I had that, but yeah."
It was unbelievable.
DJ Carrasco.
Yeah, DJ Carrasco comes on relief for Steve. Throws what did he throw? 5, 6 shutout innings. Unbelievable.
That's amazing.
So Tyler, obviously, the featured player of the month of August 2021, the newsletter. Read a lot about you, my man. So you're originally from Ontario, Canada, and you're now in Bakersfield, California. How do you like living in California, man?
I'm liking it a lot. I really like warm weather, and I hate snow. So this is a really nice place for that.
Absolutely.
Before this, I was living in Newfoundland.
Oh wow!
And
wow.
It's almost like complete opposite climates. So.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you've ever been to the Midwest or not, but me and Steve are both in the Midwest, St. Louis and kind of central Illinois area. I mean, a lot of people don't know it. Me and Steve are brothers. We grew up obviously in St. Louis together. I live more towards the Chicago area in Illinois now. Both huge Cardinals fans, obviously. But summers are super hot and winters are super cold. So it'll be 100 degrees one day and it'll be snowing the next, literally. I mean,
I went to a game in St. Louis a few years ago at Busch Stadium, and
nice,
really, really hot. And it was a day game, and we were sitting right in the sun, so that was kind of, I think it was 110 degrees or something like that. That might have been with the humidity. And
the humidity in St. Louis is
a killer.
Horrible.
It was also, so Chris Carpenter was pitching for the Cardinals, and he blew up. He gave up like 12 runs in 3 or 4 innings.
Whoa.
And then you're sitting there in this sweltering heat in a 12-1 game.
And I bet it was exciting for you too to see Chris Carpenter, a former Toronto Blue Jay, as well.
Yeah, for sure.
That actually brings up a good point. Something I want to ask you about that I read the newsletter about you. So you used to be a Toronto Blue Jays fan. What happened there?
So the Blue Jays, at the beginning of this year, they canceled their radio broadcast and decided to just simulcast the TV feed on the radio.
What?
And it really does not work well, because they'll say things like, "Oh, look at that," and they'll talk about replays they're playing on the TV that don't make sense unless you're looking at them. So, it became, being blind, it became virtually impossible for me to watch the games, because even if I watch the TV feed, I run into the same issue.
Yeah, obviously. And Steve, can you imagine 1120 KMOX not having a radio broadcast of Cardinals baseball? It's unfathomable.
We have been listening to the same guy on the radio our entire life, Mike Shannon.
Yes, and even other guys like, Dan McLaughlin.
Jack Buck. No, Dan McLaughlin's only on the TV.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He does.
He's great, though. He is good.
John Rooney. John Rooney has been on there for many years. Ricky Horton, a former Cardinal, has been doing it for a long time now.
But mainly Jack Buck.
Yeah, Jack Buck, legendary. If not the greatest baseball announcer of all time. It's not hard to argue that one. You've got Vin Scully and you got Jack Buck.
Maybe Harry Carey.
Maybe Harry. Oh, I love me some Harry. Even though he was a Cubs announcer, he was a Cardinals.
That guy, the Giants guy is good too. What's his name? The Giants announcer. He's real good.
The current one?
Ain't that old guy still doing it there?
Can't remember off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, somebody will tell us.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? He's got a really good voice.
I know I really like the guy who does the Giants broadcast, but I don't know the name.
We're all blanking on the Giants announcer right now. If you're listening, sir, we're sorry. We love you. And Tyler, you actually brought up the point before I had a chance to. The reason why your story is so amazing and fascinating to us is that you've been so wildly successful in a short period of time on this game on imaginesports.com, and it's because of the fact that you're blind. How, man? Tell us about this. How do you do it?
So, sort of at a really basic level, for blind people to use a computer, they'll usually use screen reading software. And it's basically, it reads text on the screen, and it allows you to operate the computer with just the keyboard, so you don't need to use the mouse. I was really glad to find Imagine Sports because it happens to be screen reader accessible, and that's it's not rare for big websites, but it's kind of rare for really small websites. So I was able to use the site, which was really exciting. And every time I came across something that was sort of working weird with my screen reader, I would email support, and they actually knew the answer to the question, which kind of blew my mind. That, I'm used to small websites not even having considered not even considering whether or not their site is screen reader accessible. And this site actually knew how to use the screen readers and gave me detailed instructions on how to get around the issues I was having. And it was just amazingly helpful. So the fact that the site is accessible helps a ton. I mean, I wouldn't be able to use it otherwise.
They've always been really helpful to me too, and I've been a pain in their ass, so they probably shouldn't have.
Just another reason why Imagine Sports and Dane Myers, has the greatest fantasy baseball site on planet Earth. Obviously, we love it a lot, and that's why we like to talk about it a lot. So, I mean, Tyler, man, you've been playing since May.
Yeah.
Tell us about how many teams you have right now. I think you've had some considerable success already so far. What's going on, man?
So I'm Canadian, so I'm not allowed to brag.
I know plenty of Canadians, and I don't know about that.
No, but I've had so far, I have a couple of teams that are currently active that I'm pretty sure won't make the playoffs, but all of my teams that have finished did make the playoffs so far, which kind of, I mean,
Obviously.
I think a lot of it I think was luck, and some of it I picked up kind of quickly, I think, based on help from people on the advice board, sort of the things to pay attention to when picking players, and sort of a broad understanding of evaluating players and that kind of stuff, and that helped.
Yeah.
But I think right now I have 5 teams, although 2 of them are wrapping up. And I can't remember. I did a couple of the quick, like the really fast ones, like Turbo Leagues, and what's the other one called? The one that's 9 games a day. So I had a few teams like that as well.
Steve, we play 9 games a day in our progression league, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I like that pace. 9 games a day is my favorite pace.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
And I was going to say, Tyler, if we get an open spot, I highly encourage you to join us to see how the rookie progression league. We talked a little bit offline about it. Let's kind of bring it up again. It's what I'm currently playing right now. So we started in 73 when the DH started. And basically you pick a franchise. There's 12 of us in this league. You pick a franchise and you just manage that franchise till the end of time. Obviously, each season was about a month or so, Steve, maybe
it's about a month.
4 or 5 weeks.
With the draft and preseason where we do all the trading and stuff, it's about a month.
Yeah. And basically you pick the franchise and you have first rights to rookies each year in the franchise. And you can protect up to 2 players.
No, you can protect, 16.
Yeah. You get 16 keepers. You can protect two players. So basically, one year I had the pitcher named John Denny for the Cardinals, and he only threw like 2 innings that season. And so in order for me to have rights for him as a rookie, obviously I'm not going to play him, right, but I had to draft him, and then I'm able to protect him. I have rights to him that no one else can sign him because he's a part of my franchise. As long as I keep the roster spots open and keep a $500K player on my team, for the rest of the year, you have rights to those guys. So basically, and you could sign anybody you want. I mean, there are deals, trades, free agent signings galore in this league. You're constantly wheeling and dealing. Everybody's looking for something. It's a lot of fun, and you kind of get to, in some ways, build your franchise from the ground up. Steve, I mean, you're the expert here. What could you tell them about that?
The funnest part about these progression leagues is the wheeling and dealing, the trade and draft picks, stuff like that. A lot of people really worry about their franchise. Like the guy that's leading right now, the Reds, he's trying to keep the big red machine in order. But I have 2 A's. That's it. Out of all my players, I have the A's, but I have 2 A's. So really, you could go any way you want.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know in standard leagues, there's virtually no trading.
No, there is almost no trading when there should be. I mean,
there really should be, because you see people cutting players, and it's just it's a huge loss to your team, and you're really
the
better
downward
off
spiral.
Yeah.
Well, I believe I coined that phrase.
Really?
Like 25 years ago or something on an article for DL fans. I believe I was the first one to write that downward spiral. I also the Superman long reliever. I did that one.
I've seen your post about that.
Yep.
I don't know how to get that to work, but
well, Steve, tell them how to get it to work.
You put the guy in every role, and you put everybody else pull to one. It works pretty good.
I think there used to be a lot more X-rated relievers, right? Is that the case?
To make it work, you should probably have an X reliever, but every starting pitcher is a very good reliever. So a lot of times I just pick one of those.
Okay.
Very good reliever will work, but if you want to get like the 150 innings, 170, people have gotten close to 200 innings out of a reliever. You need excellent for that.
I'm on pace to get about, I think, 130 from Zoldyck in one of my teams, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that'd be nice. One thing I've always tried to do, I've been trying to do this for at least 20 years, to get 20 wins and 20 saves in the same season out of the same pitcher. And it is damn near impossible. I mean, I've got 14 recently, but
I think you did that with Raleigh Fingers.
Fingers, I got 14 wins and 14 saves, but man, it's tough. I've been trying that for a long time.
We played a live game against each other, and he's like, all right, I'm bringing in Raleigh Fingers. He brought him in the 9th, and I think we went into like 13 or 14. You're like, he's like, I want to leave him in. I need to save.
The only reason I brought Raleigh Fingers in, it was like one batter left. He was already tired from pitching so much or whatever. But I was like, you know what? I need to save. This is a safe situation. I need to save. And he got blown up. So got a loss. That's what he got.
The thing I go back and forth on is I end up, so like I've got a team right now with 2 very good durability relievers and an average reliever. I think the third guy's average. And you can put them all in the same order, long relief, setup, and closer. But then you end up sometimes where they just get used, all of them get used in a really short period, and then you got nobody left for the remaining.
What are your settings for pull for reliever at?
I think it depends on the starter. It's probably 3 for mediocre starters and like 4 for my best starters.
I mean, you have to set the relievers for that too, to keep them in the game longer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I probably didn't do that. I bet you that's one of the issues.
That might be it.
Yeah.
So Tyler, I'll pose a question to you. When I get a great owner on the show, obviously, Turnbuckle Sports Network podcast, fairly new. We're just getting off the ground here. But we had a great interview with your buddy Chris Baud, the other day, the great writer and fantasy baseball expert from Deadspin.com. So I had him on here. I'm going to ask you a similar question. I'm going to pick the brains of all you guys as much as I can to try to improve my game. I've learned so much already, but what do you focus on as an owner? I know some guys are more pitching focused, more hitting focused. Tell me your philosophies about that, what you do, drafting. Just go into as much detail on that as you want for us.
So, I guess great owner is probably at a stretch at this point, because
I think the August 2021 owner of the month would beg to.
I don't really have like a firm philosophy yet. I've done both, where I've spent a lot on hitting and a little bit on pitching and vice versa, but I tend to lean more toward pitching. And defense, of course. Defense is huge. So like I try to I've never had a team where I tried to deprioritize defense. It's, I think, probably a recipe for disaster unless you're really, really good with your picks.
It is. I learned that the hard way, and that's something that Steve finally said, dude, what are you doing? Your defense is horrible. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This guy's got, 800 OPS against righties and 850 against left. This guy's great. He goes, but his defense is horrible. And then I'm like, well, I'm not really as focused on defense. I'm going to score enough runs, right? Well, when you're having 10 errors a week at third and at second base and in right field, and it adds up quickly and it goes horrible fast, the downward spiral of defense. So last season, I made some late season adjustments in that regard. And quite frankly, I kind of feel like that's how my 78 win team made it to the World Series last year in my league. So yes, defense is important. Please, all you guys out there,
have you guys noticed how Matt brags about his 78 win World Series team every podcast? Everyone.
Did I say I was bragging? No.
The 78 win World Series team. It's the greatest team.
Unlike a guy playing for 4 months, making the playoffs every time, Tyler, I've been playing for a year and a half, all kinds of different leagues, trying everything, and I made it once. So, hey, I'm happy about it.
But
right?
I think
though, it's harder to get to a World Series with 78 wins than 90. It's a lot harder to do it. I've never done that. I haven't accomplished that feat yet.
I think you said too, though, that you never played a standard league. Is that right?
No, I haven't yet, but I will.
I think that's probably a big difference because you end up in some divisions in standard leagues where you're with two teams that are death spiraling, and it becomes kind of easy to make the playoffs at that point, because even if you don't win the division, you're probably going to win the wild card if you've got two death spirals in your division.
Yeah, so, I mean, good managing down the stretch, avoiding the proverbial pumpkining, which is so vital and so key. Your last little bit of the season and going into the playoffs, that made a big difference for me.
Hey Matt, are you familiar with the death spiral? Because you've never played anything but SSG, so you don't even know how that works. In a standard league, if you release a player, you only get 75% of his value.
Oh,
so you can really, your team can really go down in value fast. So, or in the SSG, like if you use 95% of them, you still get 95% back. If you cash somebody in, it works a little different.
So, and there's no pumpkining in standard leagues.
It's just
SSG. So what I found, one of the teams that I saw, and I hate watching people death spiral even if they're in my division, because it's really painful to watch. So like I saw a guy release Greg Maddux and lose 25% of that salary.
That's like $5 million or something.
Yeah, and then signed Eddie Matthews and kept him for 2 games, and then released him.
Oh my god!
Like, $10 million gone, and like by the end of the season, that team's worth about $60 million, and everyone else is worth $110 million.
They get caught up because they're like, I am losing. I have to do something, but then they just keep making it worse and worse and worse.
And there's no. I think it's hard for people to sort of understand that there's no slumps in this game. Like it's just code. If somebody's not performing well, there's no reason to think they'll keep performing poorly.
That's one of the hardest things for people to do. I have to talk to this guy about not moving his guys around in the lineup all the time. He's like, he's hitting like shit. I'm dropping him to 8th.
I was just going to say, guilty. And I'm just now starting to stay the course is a big thing in this game. I've got a great team, especially right now. I mean, I kind of have almost the same team as I did last year. And, sometimes great players in this game just have slumps. And Steve's like, dude, just stay the course. Might not be that way right now. And, of course, down the stretch, 78 wins. You guys. But talk to us a little bit more about your philosophies. I know we talked about defense, but I think offline you are a pitching-focused kind of owner. So tell us about that, Tyler.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm definitely committed to that, but I do really like when I can do it, having a couple of strong aces in the rotation. So this pricing cycle, Johan Santana just looks like a ridiculously good value. So I kind of liked grabbing him and putting him with maybe an $8 million pitcher and then double acing them. I think a lot of people don't do that, and I've also not done it sometimes, so it's not the only way to win or anything. I just kind of like having a really good pitcher go out there.
Well, yeah, obviously. Like one of the things that I'd like to do, and not everybody does this, certainly Steve doesn't, because Steve doesn't care about pitching, apparently.
I don't
care. So we'll have him talk about that if he hasn't already, but I like specialists. They've been successful for me.
You like what?
Specialists. So I like to have guys that just totally decimate right-handers specifically or left-handers specifically, and I'll set them at pull at 1. Say it's late in the game, and I'm up by 1 or 2. It's the 8th inning. I'm gonna have a specialist who just murders right-handers come in. If it's only one right-hander, he'll face him. He's pull at 1. He's out of there. My lefty specialist will come in, face the next guy. He's out of there. And then old Bruce Sutter, who cost me $12 million this year as my closer, is going to come in, and he is just – his numbers in 77 are just unbelievable. And he's blown 4 saves for me this year already when he's supposed to be the best guy at that ever. So it doesn't always work out. But I like to do that because matchups. I'm a matchups kind of guy.
You can get the sim manager to actually do that, though?
Because if you have a big enough bullpen and you have everybody set at 1, you can get it to do it.
Right.
You have to have a big bullpen.
Probably have to have 7 or 8 relievers or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do like to – I tend to carry all the relievers that I can. I kind of adopt one of Steve's philosophies where I kind of do the 4-man rotation. I do have a 5th starter, but we don't spend too much money on him. He's just kind of like maybe $1 million or 2 guys going to get some innings for you, pitch maybe twice a week or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's how it works out, Steve. But I like relievers, and I kind of keep my bench not as, because I like to set my teams up to where guys are going to play most of the year, and I don't have to worry about replacing them mid-season. Maybe late in the year, I'll have to replace a second baseman or somebody like that. But I like relievers. I like to carry as many pitchers as I can.
Right. So do I. Even if I have a 4-man rotation, I don't care if I don't even care if he's poor for starting pitcher durability. I just don't care at all. I want him out of the game as fast anyway as I can get him out and start playing matchups.
Hey, if I think the sun's setting here. If you start not being able to see me, let me know and I'll turn the light
off.
That's okay.
It's looking good so far.
Yeah, you look great. You look great, Tyler. Don't worry about it, my man. Okay, so what me and Steve are really fascinated about and want to learn more about, obviously, how you play the game. But for what we understand, you're using or working with somebody on an app to actually hear play-by-play for the game. Tell us about that, man.
So that's something that he goes by Hoover H on the site. He developed it. I helped a little bit. I wrote a couple of functions for the script, but it's almost all his work. So just to be clear, he gets the credit for this.
Yeah. We didn't know too much about it, So that's why we're asking you, man, because me and Steve found out about this. It just blew our minds. So
it's amazing. So it basically reads the game out loud to you, basically just a play-by-play. And he's put a bunch of really cool stuff in there too now. So it reads you the starting lineups and it sets the defense for each team before the game starts. So it tells you third baseman has fair range and
Oh
soft
my
hands or
God, I
something
gotta
like that.
hear
It's
this.
so cool.
I want
sounds
to use
great.
this. Why aren't we using this? I want to do this.
Do you
And-
know what I'm using for my play-by-play reader right now?
What?
Matt. He's one of those ones.
And I'm a noob announcer at best, showing in our last video. Did the best I could. I've got the voice for it.
He was looking at trying to get it to work through a GUI, so people could just download that and click.
What is a
buttons.
GUI?
Graphical user interface. So it'd be like an app that would just sit on your desktop, and you could open it and click a button. But he hasn't found a way to get that to work yet. I think I looked into that a few years ago, and maybe it's gotten better since. But Python doesn't tend to have a lot of ways to bundle into a GUI easily that'll just work on everybody's computers, and that's kind of what we're going for. But right now, anyone can use it. It just takes a little bit of setup. So there's a message board post where Hoover put some instructions for how to do it on a PC, and I have some instructions there for how to get it working on a Mac. And once you've got it set up, it's really easy. So it's great because I can, it's hard to watch a lot of play-by-play because you got other stuff to do, but you can do chores and listen to your game at the same time. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is that's been on my wish list from this game for a long time. I would love to be able to hear that game when I'm driving or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Tyler, you have been an amazing guest. Thank you so much.
I have one more question for Tyler that we didn't talk about. How do you do this when you can't see? That it blows my mind that I can barely sort through this stuff. I'm all the time I'm like, yeah, I like that guy's name, so I would take him. So I do that kind of stuff all the time. I do that.
It blows our minds that you do this. It's amazing.
The tables on the site are accessible, but when I first started playing, I was using the tables on the website a lot to try to pick players, but they take a little bit of time to do. So I've been using spreadsheets, sort of. Basically, I use Python, and I get it to write out the same thing a sighted person would look at in a spreadsheet, but in a format that's easier to read if you can't see. So then I can just pass things to it, like tell it to show me the best value second baseman under 8 million or something like that, and it'll just give me a list. So that's helped a lot, and it's saved me a lot of time with team construction since I got that all working.
It sounds so hard. I mean, like how are you making small decisions and stuff like that? Like a lot of times I'll just be like, okay, these guys are all similar. Who am I going to pick? That guy slightly better than OBP. Is that how you're doing stuff?
No, I've got formulas that go into it. I didn't come up with the formulas, really. Like, people on the advice board have a lot of formulas that they're happy to share. So it's like you assign a certain number of runs saved for each
I used to do that stuff until I realized that the sim stats just aren't good enough. Like, they don't have any real rhyme or reason to them. They're not always correct.
Right.
I don't know if you heard me and Chris Baud talked about that in the last video.
Yeah, there's a lot of usage biases that he's been noticing that I think, so for example, he made the point in your interview that pitchers are more susceptible to this, and I think he's right.
Yes.
Travis Wood was incredibly popular last time, and if you look at him now, his price went up about $2.5 million or something, but he still looks like a great value. But is that because a lot of good owners were using him, and therefore he almost always had really good defenses behind him? It's hard to say. I'm not sure. So that you definitely run into issues like that, and park usage biases as well. Because if you look at some players and they've played, like 20% of their games in Coors and Baker, and
people like Ken Phelps and Pete Incaviglia and those kind of guys, they get stuck in those parks constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ken Phelps was the greatest bargain of all time. Ken Phelps is legendary bargain. When he first came out, he was like $500,000, and he'd have a 400 OBP and 40 homers every
That's
year.
amazing.
It was unbelievable. If you got Ken Phelps, you won. It was Ken Phelps and Danny McFadden. He was like 500K. He would get 20.
Like $5 million now.
Yeah, but he was like the minimum or close to it back in the old days. Everybody was trying to get him.
Wow.
I think last cycle there were a lot of really good bargains in pitching, and that Jaime Garcia and Travis Wood and Josh Fogg for like really cheap.
They've got it worked out now. There's no more Ken Phelpses. That never happens. You can't get 40 homers, and you can't get 120 runs created for 500K anymore.
No, probably not. But you get the odd. Actually, I was gonna say when you were talking about the splits, what I've been doing with one team, sort of to middling success to this point, but I've got 2 cheap pitchers for the 4th spot in my rotation. One's a lefty, Tim Conroy, and then one's a righty, Ken Schramm. And when it's their turn in the rotation, I kind of look and see, okay, how many left and right-handed hitters does this team have? And because both of them are really good against one side of the plate and really bad against the other. So
I do that a lot too, but I don't know if you do this as well, but the guy I'm not using is in the minors, so I can have another reliever.
I've just been using the guy that I'm not using, and I put him in as a reliever. So so in between their turns in the rotation, they'll come out of the bullpen.
You know what? Some people should. If you use a 5-man rotation, almost always somebody should be in the minors.
Yeah, I think so. In standard, I don't think there's ever a good reason to use a 5-man.
I don't like to.
I don't know. I almost always double ace. You can get 90 starts out of your best 2 pitchers if they.
That's what I'm going to do now.
It might
Tyler,
be harder in SSD, but
I can't.
It's not harder in SSG to do that. There's all kinds of guys that have so many innings that you can't use their innings.
Okay.
Even if you try, you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't get every inning that you could have from Bob Gibson in 68 or whatever. He has 300 innings, whatever year that is.
No.
You're not going to get all of them anyway. That's why I don't buy those guys. I can't. They're just not. You're not going to be able to get what you paid for. That's another thing about the SSG. I'm going to use every at-bat at every single inning pitch. At the end of the year, I'm about to pumpkin on every player. I'm barely making it. But then there's some teams that are like, I got 100 at-bats to spare here, 500 innings down here. That is a big leak for people. Buying too much. They have like 4 guys with 300 innings, and they'll never be able to use it.
Yeah,
I'm squeaking by. Squeaking in.
Tyler, I can't tell you enough how awesome it's been to have you on the show today.
It's been so awesome. It was almost like you were here twice.
We won't talk about that. But Tyler, stay on with us because I want to talk with you offline for a minute before we go.
Okay.
So congratulations once again. The August 2021 Diamond Mine Online, ImagineSports.com, owner of the month. Very well deserved. An awesome guest. And Tyler, would you like to come back on a roundtable discussion with us and Chris and maybe some other owners sometime?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Good, because at this point, you don't have a choice. I'm going to hound you until you do it again. Tyler, thank you so much. Thank you all for watching the Turnbuckle Sports Network podcast, our first official edition of Turnbuckle Talk. For Tyler, for Steve, and myself, I will say adios.